for being present today. I see some of my students that have joined the meeting, and I'm so happy to be able to have you here. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for supporting these workshops made by the Centro para el Desarrollo de Competencias Lingüísticas. So siempre agradecido de todo su apoyo. If you don't know me, my name is, I am Professor Gretchen Torres. I am the English professor at the Facultad de Estudios Generales. And I'm also the English coordinator at the Centro para el Desarrollo de Competencias Lingüísticas. As you may know, every month we give a workshop to students in English, in this case, whether it be grammar, effective presentations, English speaking skills, effective communication, and so on. Also remember that at the Cdcl, we offer tutoring in English, in Spanish, and in math. We also offer document revision. We also help you with any assignment that you have regarding Spanish, English, and math classes. So feel free to come anytime you need. We are located in the MN on the second floor at the end of the hallway in front of classrooms 201 to 208, I think. So feel free to come by, feel free to visit our webpage at uprrp.edu/cdcl. We have a lot of pre-recorded workshops and all workshops that you can find there. And also you can make the appointment to receive the services by the Cdcl. So with no further ado, I am going to present Professor Yolanda Rivera Castillo, who is going to be the presenter today. La profesora Yolanda Rivera Castillo es catedrática de la Universidad de Puerto Rico. Obtuvo su formación académica en la Universidad de Puerto Rico, de Wisconsin-Madison y de California Davis. La mayor parte de sus publicaciones pertenecen a su especialidad, la lingüística fonología, aunque ha publicado poesía. Sus artículos se encuentran en revistas profesionales como el Journal of Portuguese and Spanish Lexically Based Creoles, STUF, Practipology and Universally Fortune. Es como en alemán, así que me perdonan. And Journal of Pidgin and Creole Languages. También ha publicado libros que recogen trabajos en torno a un tema, como recientemente Sonority Across Languages en el 2016 y la Enciclopedia de Lingüística Hispana también en el 2016. Su libro titulado Papiamento Structural Futures se publicó en el 2002 bajo la editorial holandesa Brill. Su investigación se ocupa de temas de fonología, la sintaxis y la documentación de la lengua criolla. A continuación vamos a presentar el taller de la fonética del inglés o Introduction to Sounding More Natural in English de la doctora Rivera.
Inglés. Y compararemos un poco con los del español. Buenos días. Hoy hablaremos sobre los sonidos del inglés. Y compararemos un poco con los del español, aunque explicaremos más bien aquellos que son nuevos para quien adquiere el inglés como segunda lengua. Good morning. Today we're doing a small comparison between English and Spanish, and we're going to talk about those sounds that might be an issue for those acquiring English as a second language. First, there are three issues that we would like to address. In English, you have changes to vowel quality based on their position in the word. We're going to talk about how a tense vowel can become lax when you have a longer word. Also, we're going to talk about the pronunciation of T in different contexts. There are many sounds, consonants that are produced differently in different positions, but T has 7 different allophones, 7 different pronunciations in different contexts. That includes the beginning of words, between vowels, and after a nasal N. Also, I would like to talk about how some sounds become voiced. Voiced sounds are those that have vibration of the vocal cords. If you put your hand in front of your throat, you're going to feel that vibration with some sounds. So T sometimes has vibrations, so it becomes a D. And S also can change to Z because it gets vibration from a sound that comes before at the end of words. Let's begin with similarities and differences between the sounds of English and the sounds of Spanish. In English, you have around 11 vowels. These are divided between tense and lax vowels. In Spanish, we don't have any lax vowels. Also, you have vowels in the front of the mouth, vowels in the back of the mouth, and vowels at the bottom of the mouth. So the ones in the front are shown here. Just imagine that this is someone's mouth. The tongue is going to move to that position in the front for E, and it's going to move to the back position for U. That's what you should take into account when talking about vowels. Now, when talking about consonants, we have a lot of consonants in English, also some that are produced in different positions. The lips, right after your teeth, those produced in the ceiling of your mouth, the palatal area, in the back, the velar area. And there are a few sounds also that you produce in the area behind your mouth, which is, the upper part of your throat, the glottal area. And the main difference with Spanish is that English has many fricatives. Fricatives are sounds that are produced without stopping the flow of air. They're very noisy, such as F and S and Z. We're going to see a difference between Spanish and English that is relevant to our description of the sounds of English. Here you go for the sounds of Spanish. There you have the consonants, some of which are not available, never used in English, such as ña, ñame, or words like that. And also you have ya, which is a sound for llamar, yo. That sound is not very popular in English either. Then we have 5 vowels. These are indeed very common among languages in the world. English has 11 sounds and Spanish has only 5. 4 of those are tense, I, U, E, O. And the only lax vowel is A, unlike English that has many lax sounds. Now, This is a general description. This is what they call general English. In fact, if you look throughout the English-speaking world, you're going to see a lot of variation. Not just regional variation, but you're going to see people from different groups who speak differently. People who are using a formal language sometimes, and sometimes talk differently when they're in their community or their family. So I am providing you with some with some web addresses that will give you some description of variation for British English and for American English. Also, I include a web address for the archive of speakers of English as a second language. This is very interesting because one of the main issues with acquiring a second language is the fact that our first language, the language that we learn as kids, is going to influence the way we produce this second language. So if you want to take a look at that archive, you can listen to speakers of different languages and pick a region, see how the same English paragraph in English is produced differently by different speakers. Now, let's begin with the first phenomenon, which is differences in vowel production in different contexts. There's a rule, the trisyllabic laxing rule. That rule is something that affects the quality of vowels in different positions. So you have the word vain, and then you have vanity. When you add a suffix, an ending to the word vain, you get a lax sound, not a. That sound is the result of having a longer word, and English has a tendency to have words that last about the same, in terms of time. So what they do is they get a lax form that is shorter than the tense form, which is a. The same with the other example that we have there. This rule is something that we cannot ignore when we are producing English sounds because it's very consistent throughout different endings and different words. Okay, the second fact that we have to take into account when we describe the variation of vowels in English is what happens to vowels in different positions. Let's suppose that we have a word that ends in a vowel, not a consonant. That vowel is going to be longer than the one you find in the word that ends in a consonant. So you have there homoorganic diphthongs. Okay, they call them diphthongs because when you make a sound longer, it changes a little. So we have see, do, and then we have the one ending in a consonant, does. That one is a short sound compared to see and do. You're gonna notice that it is shorter in duration. The same applies to the other examples we have there. They and cool, come. Okay, you can see that in the case of the L, you still get a long vowel at the end of that word. And the reason we're gonna show you a video in which they explain that. There are only 3 true diphthongs in English. They call them heterogenic diphthongs. We have I, bite, oi, boy, ow, house. Compare that to Spanish. In Spanish, we have 14 diphthongs. Okay, we don't have a distinction between through and non-through diphthongs. We don't have a distinction between homorganic and heterogenic diphthongs. All our diphthongs are distinctive. They can distinguish the meaning of words. So this does not apply to Spanish. This is an important difference between Spanish and English. Okay, let's show you what is the difference between those diphthongs that are just longer vowels that are shifting to another sound. First, we're gonna take a look at the true diphthongs. You're gonna see that the movement of the tongue crosses the mouth. So you're gonna see an arrow that means how the tongue moves to produce that sound. There you go. From I, you can see that is in the middle, more towards the back of the mouth, and it moves all the way to the front. And then you have ow. In the case of ow, you have the tongue moving from the middle to the back of the mouth. And the last one, I said we only have 3. The last one is oi. There you go. O-E. You can see the tongue moving from the back to the front of the mouth. Those are the true diphthongs, the heterogenic diphthongs. Let's take a look at the homorganic ones. You can see E, as in C, it stays in the same area of the mouth. That is the front of the mouth. The same with A. You can see that that diphthong also stays in the front of the mouth. They're just extended vowels. Then we have
La masa.
the tongue moving just a little bit down. And then we have O, where you have the tongue moving just a little bit up. There you go. These are the homorganic and the heterogenic diphthongs. As you can see, what might sound like a diphthong, a regular diphthong in Spanish to us, is actually just an extended vowel in English. So that's an important difference. Okay, let's take a look at this video. In this video, you're gonna see that longer vowels happen not just when the syllable ends in a vowel, but also when you have a consonant that has vibration, that is voiced, such as D, G, M, that kind of stuff. And in this video, they explain that when you have a consonant that has no vibration, a voiceless consonant like T, K, and G, the vowel is gonna be shorter. You can see there, rack and rag. So let's take a look at this video, and then we'll continue when it is over.
This video is a spin-off of the can versus can't video. We're going to take one of the concepts from that video and broaden it into a general rule. One of the ways you can tell the difference between can and can't is the length of the word. Can will be a little longer and a little smoother than can't, which will be a little bit more abrupt. Can't, can't. That's because of the stop T, which makes that abrupt ending. The T is an unvoiced consonant, and as a general rule, a one-syllable word that ends in an unvoiced consonant will be shorter than the same word if it was to end in a voiced consonant. So here the final consonant is actually affecting vowel length. Let's look at some examples. Rack, rag, rack, rag. Do you hear that the second word is just a little bit longer? That's because of the voiced consonant at the end. Here you see the word rack on the left compared with rag on the right. You can see that the length of rack is shorter. Hid, hit, hid, hit. I hope you can see that that second word, hit, is very abrupt. Need, neat, need, neat. Safe, save, safe, save. Second word, longer. Ride, right, ride, right. This actually answers a question that someone sent me in an email quite a while ago. How to tell the difference between fall and fall. The only difference in IPA is the T, and as you know, final T's are often not released. Fall, full. Can you hear that the second one is shorter? Full, full. It's that stop T that's cutting off the sound, that unvoiced consonant at the end that, even though is not released, does affect the vowel length. That's it, and thanks so much for using Rachel's English.
Okay. I hope that you understood the material. If you have any questions or other topics that you would like to discuss regarding that short and long form of vowels, I can answer those questions at the end of this recording. Okay, let's take a look at something different. Allophonic rules for consonants. Okay, I mentioned that there's a consonant that has many pronunciations. That's T. Actually, I'm saying many, but it's only 7 ways of producing that sound. At the beginning of words, the T is produced with a little burst right after, like ta, ta. That's a difference, an important difference between Spanish and English. It is important because that gives you something, a variation that will make you sound closer to the variation that happens in English when you're acquiring a second language. So that T becomes longer with that little burst of air. Other consonants that undergo this same phenomenon at the beginning of words are K and P. Okay? So you can hear K, P, point. Okay. Kai. Okay, so we're gonna say that you can watch this video that explains this particular pronunciation. So I'm gonna give you a few moments to take a look at that.
Hi, and welcome to the Clear English Corner. I'm Keenan, your personal American accent coach. In this video lesson, you're going to learn all about the American T. Before we jump into today's lesson, I want to make sure you know that there's more lessons coming on the Clear English Corner. So be sure to subscribe and tap the bell so that you get a notification every time a new lesson is published. So jumping into today's topic, the American T. The T sound is one of the most common consonant sounds in the English language, and Americans have a distinct way of pronouncing this sound depending on where it is in a word and what sounds come around it. There's actually 4 different T sounds in American English, and today we're going to talk about all 4. We'll talk about the true T, the flap T, the held T, and the vanishing T. So let's start first with the true T. T, t, t. This is the sound you expect to hear when you see the letter T. It's clear, it's concise, it's distinct. It's made by taking your tongue tip and tapping it on the ridge behind your top front teeth. T, t, t. You hear this sound at the beginning of words like to, take, tell. You're also going to hear this sound at the beginning of stressed or emphasized syllables in words like until, hotel, and return. If you're not sure what I mean by stressed syllable, make sure you check out my series on word stress, where you'll learn exactly how to identify and pronounce the super special emphasized syllables in English. The true T also happens in consonant clusters. A cluster is when 2 consonant sounds occur right next to each other, and you say them both. So, for example, ST as in stop, STR as in street, and TR as in tree. Consonant clusters also occur at the end of words in English. You'll hear that true T sound in clusters like CT as in fact, FT as in lift, LT as in melt, ST as in best, and PT as in kept. There's one final T cluster that doesn't follow along with the others, and that's NT. And I'm going to talk more about that one in just a second. So a quick recap, you're going to hear true T at the beginning of words, at the beginning of stressed syllables, and in consonant clusters that have T. Moving on to the flap T. The flap T is really just a D sound, and this flap T happens when T is in the middle of words in between 2 vowel sounds. So for example, take this word, WATER. Instead of water, water, water. Do you hear that flap T or the D sound? Water. I need a drink of water. CITY. Instead of city, city, city. I live in the city. Try this one with me. LATER. Later. I'll see you later. One more. BETTER. Better. I hope you feel better. Flap T will also happen in between words when one word ends in a vowel sound and T, and the next word starts with a vowel sound. For example, take what is. Instead of a true T, what is, you're going to put in that D sound or flap T. What is? What is this? Another example, but I. Instead of that true T at the end of the word but, try the flap T. But I. But I. But I said that. A recap on flap T, or the D sound. You're going to hear this quick D sound when the T comes between two vowel sounds, whether that's within a word or in between two words. Okay, T number 3. This is the held T. When you make the T sound, there's actually 3 steps to this process. Step 1, the air comes up through your lungs and into your mouth. Then step 2, your tongue tip raises up to the ridge behind your top front teeth and stops the air. And step 3, the air is released in an air puff. For the held T, you just skip step 3. You hold the tip of your tongue against the ridge behind your top front teeth, and you don't release any air. Held T happens at the end of words in American English. For example, take the word about. Instead of that true T at the end, most Americans are going to hold that T, about. My tongue tip goes to the ridge behind my teeth and just stays there. About that. The tongue tip stays up for the T and goes straight into the TH sound. The tongue tip goes under the front teeth for the TH sound. About that. About that. Let's talk about that. Let's try another one together. Let's try it was. It. The tongue goes up for the T at the end of the word it, holds there, and then straight into the W sound for was. It was. It was. It was awesome. Another time you're going to hear the held T is at the end of a syllable when the next syllable starts with a consonant sound. For example, the word outside. Instead of outside, outside. The tongue stays up for the T and goes straight into the S sound. Outside. Let's eat outside tonight. Try another one with me. Apartment. Instead of apartment, apartment. I love my new apartment. And remember how I said that cluster NT at the end of words doesn't follow the true T like other consonant clusters? It's because the NT at the end of words, you're going to hear a held T for that cluster. So for example, the word student. Instead of student, student. My tongue stays up for the T sound after the N. Student. I'm glad I'm not a student anymore. Another example, president. The president of the United States. Again, that T is held after the N in the NT cluster. So to recap, held T happens at the end of words and at the end of syllables when the next syllable starts with a consonant sound, and in the NT cluster. Let's talk about vanishing T. Sometimes
Okay, welcome back. Now we're gonna go and see something else. Okay, this is a list of these pronunciations of these allophones of T. You can see you have 7 possibilities. And these possibilities are based on their position. When they're at the beginning of the word, they have that burst stop. When they're between these T happens between vowels. In American English, you have city. Noticed that in British English, you have the T, city. While in American English, you have city, that flap. That looks a little bit like our R that is found in words such as caro. Is similar to that. Then you have other possibilities, sounds that happen before N, and in that case, you get like a glottal stop. A glottal stop is a sound that comes from your throat. It sounds like a sudden release of air, like there you have. But I'm exaggerating, of course, but it's just to illustrate that. Then you have the unreleased T that happens at the end of words. In the video, they explain that T is like you put your tongue in the position to produce a T, but sometimes you don't even say it. Like percent of or cat. Sometimes it's really soft. So there you have all the variations of T. And that's something that is very different from Spanish T. First, this T is produced right behind your teeth, while the Spanish T is produced touching, barely touching, but touching your teeth. Okay, let's go to voicing. As I said, voiced sounds are produced with vibration of the vocal cords. And voiceless sounds don't really produce that much vibration. So if you put your hand in front of your throat, you're gonna feel that T has little vibration, but D has much more. In English, when you have a word ending in a voiced sound, especially when you're talking about verbs, and you put that ending, ed, that's for the past. Like I talk in the present and I talked in the past. What you get is a T because the last sound of talk is k, and that sound doesn't have much vibration of the vocal cords. So in a way, it is like a virus. You have a sound that has little vibration, then the ending, instead of being D, becomes T. That has little vibration. It's like passing on the same characteristic from the end, from the last consonant of the verb to the ending, to the suffix ed, that means past. So you have many examples there. You have stop and stopped. There, I'm exaggerating, of course. That's P that has no vibration, then you get a T. Then you have ban and band. There you have a D because N has vibration too. So instead of T, you get a D. And if you go through that list, you're gonna see that the last sound is going to influence the following sound. I also have a video for that, so I'm gonna give you a minute to take a look at that.
Did you know these two letters can be pronounced in 3 different ways? They can be d, t, or id. Here's how to find out which. First, feel your neck. If a sound makes it vibrate like d, then it's voiced. If it doesn't, like t, then it isn't. Where ed comes after a vowel or a voiced consonant, then pronounce it as d, which is a voiced sound. Played, used. If you have ed after an unvoiced sound, then it sounds like t, an unvoiced sound. Looked, helped. If you have t or d, then ed becomes id. It's just easier to say. Wanted, needed. So if ed comes after a voiced sound, then it's voiced. If it comes after an unvoiced sound, then it's unvoiced. And if it comes after t or d, then it's id.
Okay, we're back. I hope that you understood the content of that video. If not, please let me know. I'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. And there you go. So tell me, do you notice anything with the final S in those words? Pay attention. You can see that the way they write the S is not, as the rules tell you. They're trying to show you how that really sounds. So you can see that the first word, boy, ends in a vowel. Vowels have vibration of the vocal cords. And in a way, they spread that vibration to the S. So instead of boys, they say boys with that vibration. The same happens to girl. That L has vibration of the vocal cords. So when you produce that word with the S for the plural, you don't say girls, you say girls. So you have that vibration in the ending that tells you that those are many, many girls. My best example is always cats and dogs. Cat, the last consonant is a T. And we said before, T has no vibration or very little vibration. When you put the S for many cats, then you get S. You don't change that because S has little or no vibration of the vocal cords. But then when you have dog, the G has vibration. So when you put the S for the plural, it becomes Z. So you say dogs. I'm exaggerating, of course. So my last question, are you a cat or a dog person? Based on that, you're gonna have different pronunciations of the S for the plural form. Here you have another video that can help you, identifying that difference between S and Z at the end of words. I'm gonna give you a moment to take a look at that video. And when we come back, we will continue.
With Emma. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 3 different rules on how we can pronounce the S sound at the end of words. Make sure you stay until the end of the video because I will also be doing a little quiz to test to see how much you remember from this video. So the first rule is when we have a voiceless sound plus that S, we are going to pronounce it as a S sound. If you're not sure what a voiceless sound is, just put your hand here. If the sound has no vibration when you pronounce it, then it will be voiceless. For example, there's no vibration. That's because they're voiceless. So here are some examples. Let's take this first word, like. Like is a voiceless sound at the end. So when we add that S, it's going to be likes. Likes is going to be a S sound. Similar to sports. 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 In a sentence, she likes sports. She likes sports. What we can do here is we can join those 2 S's, so the one at the end of likes and the one at the beginning of sports, so it becomes almost like one sound. She likes sports. She likes sports. The second rule is very similar to the first one, but this time it's when we have a voice sound with the S. If this happens, then we get a Z sound. For example, dog, g, g, g. G is voiced because I can feel vibration. Dogs, gz, gz. So I'm going to add a Z sound at the end there. Dogs, dogs. Another example is owns. Own, there's vibration. Owns. owns. In a sentence, he owns dogs. He owns dogs. He owns dogs. The third and final rule is when we have a s, z, sh, j, ch, or j sound and then the s. If we get one of these sounds plus that s, what you'll hear happen is instead of saying it as just a s or z, we actually add a schwa, or sometimes, depending on the person's accent, an I. So it will sound something like uz, or is. For example, in the word close, it ends with one of those sounds, z, close. Now I don't say close, that would be quite hard to do. I need to add that extra syllable. I need to add that schwa. Closes. Another example is push. Sh is one of the sounds. Push, pushes. So don't push like I hear some students trying to do. You need to add an extra syllable. You need to add that schwa. Pushes. In a sentence, she pushes and closes the door. She pushes and closes. Notice I don't say and, but and closes the door. She pushes and closes the door. Now it's time for a mini quiz. I'm going to give you a word and I'd like you to tell me what kind of ending does it have? Does it have s, z, or is? The first one, this one here. I nearly said it. What do you think this word here has? What kind of ending? If you said cats with s, then you are correct. Cats. It is a voiceless sound. Cats. So we're going to have a s there. Cats. How do we pronounce this one? Any idea? If you said z, then you are correct. Nose. So here we have a vowel at the end. As a big clue, all vowels in English are voiced. So if a word ends with a vowel, then we know we need to add that z at the end. So nose. Next one. What about this one here? Careful. If you think it is us and we say churches or churches, then you are correct. We add that extra syllable because the word church has one of those sounds that we talked about in the third rule. Churches, or churches. So you can say it with a schwa or an I. There's really not that much difference in the pronunciation in rapid speech, if I'm honest, and it depends on the person's accent. But most dictionaries and books will tell you that it's with a schwa. And the last one, a really tricky one. What do you think about this one? Similar to the last one, judge. It ends with one of those sounds that we talked about in rule number 3. Judges, or judges. Really, there's, as I said before, there's not much difference between the two. Judges or judges. So well done if you got those 4 correct. And that's it for this video. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have and you've learned something new, please remember to give it a like. It is a nice free way to help me out. As well, if you're new around here or if you haven't subscribed yet, then maybe consider subscribing. I post new videos every single week, mostly about pronunciation, as my channel title is Pronunciation with Emma. However, I do from time to time also post about grammar and vocabulary. So a mix of things. I hope you have a fantastic week and I will see you next lesson. Bye-bye.
Okay, so those are 2 cases in which you have a sound at the end of the word that changes because of the previous sound. If you have vibration, the ED sound is gonna be a D. If you have no vibration of the vocal cords, that ED sound is gonna become a T. In the case of S, if the last sound, as in cat, has no vibration, then you're gonna get the S, which is a sound with no vibration. In the case of dog, since that final G has vibration, you're gonna get vibration and you're gonna change S to Z, dogs. Let me know if you have any questions at the end of this video. I want to thank you for your attention. We described different phenomena in English for vowels and consonants that might affect the way you produce sounds in the language. It's good to pay attention to these variations because they're very common in the language and they will help you. If you understand them and incorporate them, will help you sound more native-like. Thank you again and have a good day. Bye.
So thank you so much for participating in our presentation. Now we're going to have a Q&A session. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand through the option at the top of Teams. So I am going to mute myself. Dr. Yolanda Rivera is here, so she can answer any questions, or if there is anything you guys would like to add. I am going to give you a couple of minutes for that. So I believe there are no questions. So before you leave, please, please, please remember to complete the attendance form. It has been posted in the chat. You have the attendance form on the chat. And I believe you also have maybe an evaluation form. So please, please, please fill that out before leaving. And again, before we end, I would like to thank you so much for coming to our workshop, to our presentation. Remember to visit the Cdcl anytime you need any help with your Spanish, English, or math assignments. We are here to help you. And don't forget that we are at the DMN en el segundo piso, frente al pasillo de los salones 201 al 208, creo que es ese pasillo. Y aquí estamos para servirles tutorías de inglés, revisión de texto, tutorías de inglés, español y matemáticas, revisión de texto, si necesitan algún taller, repasar APA, MLA, Chicago con sus referencias. Recuerden que estamos aquí para ayudarlos. Pueden visitar nuestra página web en la página de la OPR, Cdcl. Ahí pueden solicitar nuestros servicios, son con cita, pero lo ayudamos enseguida, o puede pasar por nuestra oficina, por nuestro centro, y también puede llenar la solicitud o podemos darle una cita aquí. Así que sin nada más que decir, muchas gracias a la profesora Yolanda Rivera y que todos tengan buen día.